Welcome to this video on how to create reports using Project Online, OData and Excel services. My name is Peter and I am Project MVP and CEO of the Danish project partner Projektum, and I live and work in Copenhagen, Denmark. Alright, we're now ready to get started with this video or first session of my BI video. What you'll see here is the main page of a newly created Project Online tenant, which is called PKPK. That's the name for this tenant. And what you'll see here is in the left side an area called Reports, which is where we will be spending the most of our time throughout the different sessions. If I click on this, I'll go straight to some folders in which you would normally store your different reports. Notice there is one for each default language. You can obviously remove those you don't need, but if we go straight to the English one, you will see the three default reports that you will get out of the box provided by Microsoft. For those of you who have been working with Project Server or Project Online in previous versions, you will notice that this is not how it would normally look. And for those of you, you might be more familiar with this interface, which is what was normally called the Business Intelligence Center. This is actually a page, and in the left side again it had its own quick launch. So that means the reports area you just saw, and the data connections, and some content as well, because this is actually a site, the whole reporting area. And if I click here, I'll go back to the main page. So the big difference here, if I go to the updated version, is that the data connections are not here anymore. It's just the reports, but it is actually still around, but you will have to find it underneath the site content, where you will notice that you have the PWA reports. You will also have your data connections up here. So you can actually still access the data connections, meaning your OData files, and click on them and open it up in Excel to do some more work on them. But for this video and in general, I would recommend you to create your OData connections yourself and configure them and filter them and so on, exactly what I'm going to show you, in order to speed up performance. So we will actually start off by going straight to the Excel client in order for us to create our first OData connection and report. So when we need to access data from Project Online, we need to go to the data section and go to From Other Sources and select the From OData data feed. From here you have to write the path, or simply copy pasting it, to the tenant that we just looked at, like this: sites PWA underscore API, and this is actually where we're going to right now get access to the data. So we have to remember to do this exactly the way I'm doing it. Then we can write project data and projects. This would be one way to go directly to the projects table, but if you would have preferred to select from the other tables, you could just have started with this one, and the wizard will tell you what you need to do next. So right now we are accessing the table list called projects. We have to reconfirm that this is actually the table we want to use, and hit finish. Yes. And we could choose to use a table, a pivot table, or a chart. We'll just select the table, like this. And data is now being retrieved from the tenant, from the project table. So what you'll see now is a lot of data. And in this case, we have not trimmed anything to our needs, meaning that we pull out whatever is included in this projects table. So that's a lot, as you can see, and it just continues. So the problem would be for us if we have to create a report that is perhaps pretty simple, and we pull out all of this data. At some point it might get slow, or the OData service would seem slow, and it might not be the case, but it might be the case that we're simply pulling out a lot of stuff that we just don't need. So what we need to do now is to trim this to fit the needs that we have. And the best way to get started here would be to ask those who need your report how it should look. And this is one example of how I normally would do it when asking customers. What they typically would show us is some PowerPoints, and in this case it's a PowerPoint showing some specific types, software development projects and marketing campaign, by ROI, total cost, and total benefits. So right now we can see from this chart what we need of ingredients in order to create the report. So that would be some enterprise project types and some custom fields, and that's pretty much it. So let's not select more data than we need to create this. So let's go back to the Excel and go to Connections, Properties, and Definition. And down here we can actually trim the connection to the needs that we have by going to the end of it. And in this case, write question mark dollar filter. This means that now we're going to filter by something. So you have to create an equals, and we're going to use the enterprise project type name equals, which is EQ, software development, because that was one of them, or, and then we have to write it again, enterprise project type name equals marketing campaign, such as this. Remember to use the case sensitive letters, because this is actually something that will be checked in the connection string, so it does matter if you're writing this with capital or not. Now let's select OK. Yes. And it will try to refresh the data once again, as you can see in the bottom. And now we have selected only the projects that are within the area of enterprise project type marketing campaign or software development, which is, going back to the chart, exactly what we need in order to create what is in the bottom. So the next thing for us would be to then include specific custom fields. So we're going to go back to our connections, back to properties, definition, and now we need to add some more information into this one. And in this case, it's all about selecting the data that we need. So that would be and dollar select equals. So what we would like is actually to see the enterprise project type name, obviously, because we have to use it as a grouping. Project type name. We would also need the project name, because we could see that on the chart before. And we would need the ROI, the total cost, and the total benefits, such as this. Good. So let's try to see what happens when we do this. Just a second. Oh, that was just one thing too much. Okay. So now it's working again, retrieving data, and voila. We now have total cost, total benefits, ROI by project name and by enterprise project type name. So that would be exactly what we needed in order to create this one. The next step now for us is to actually try to create this chart in Excel. So let's go back to our spreadsheet here, and from this data create the chart we just saw in PowerPoint. The first thing, obviously, is that we can create charts based on this table. But if you want to group by, which we have to in order to make it look like this, then we have to group by marketing campaign and software development. To do that the most easy way, we have to convert this table into a pivot table. So to do that, we can use the insert button and hit insert pivot table and hit OK. Then we can use the enterprise project type name in our rows, and the project name, the total cost as a value, total benefit, and ROI. We can trim these things to or the fields, the data, to be in accounting format, meaning that it's money that we're looking at right now. This might be then in number format if that's the case, like this. And we can also change the custom field headers so it looks a bit more to the point. So this could be total cost, total benefit, and just maybe plain ROI, like this. So to create the chart that we just saw in the PowerPoint, going back to this one again, would be fairly easy. It would be a matter of inserting, once again, recommended charts. You can do this and select the first one. And this one right now would match more or less 1-to-1 with what we just had in the PowerPoint. Now we can hide different things. We can hide the field buttons to make it look a bit more simple, like this. And that would actually be the exercise right now for us if we had to only do this chart and make it available as a report in Project Online. So to finalize these steps, what you would have to do is then to go, for instance, to the file settings, and you have something called browser view options. Now here you can decide to show the entire workbook, including all sheets and other parts of the spreadsheet, or you can go and select specific items in the workbook. So if we just wanted to show the PowerPoint chart we had in this format, we might only select the chart and hit OK. And then we can save this spreadsheet on our desktop as only chart, hit save. Yes, and then we go back from Excel. We launch, and we already have this open in the session, but we launch our Project Online tenant. We navigate then to the reports area, and we can now use an existing container for these reports. Could be this one called English, and in here we'll just simply drag and drop the report we just did, like this, and open it up. So now actually we've done all the stuff we need to do in order for this chart to be a live report now. So by clicking on it, the chart will load like this, and it looks like this because we selected or decided only to take in the chart and nothing else. If we took the whole spreadsheet, it would look a little bit, the UI part, more as if we were in Excel still. So this one right now is exactly what we have to do, because it's 1-to-1 with the PowerPoint report. And we can then go in and just do a brief check on whether or not this is actually refreshing, which it should be. So let's try to do a refresh, like this. And now it's working, getting the data. And that's it. And now data is live and refreshed. And this report can obviously be printed out just by going to the print area. We can do a download and have a copy so we can play around with it without destroying the original file, and so on. Many prefer to actually, if we go back to the report area, many prefer to take a link to this chart and add it to the quick launch of the front page of Project Online. And to do that, I typically go to the edit or view properties here, and I simply copy the shortcut or the hyperlink, and then I go back to my front page of Project Online. Sorry, some trust here. And in the edit links pane, I would then go in and add or create, just a second, a new link for the specific chart, and we will call this the pie chart report. And then we just paste the link and put it under the reports area, hit OK, save and close. And now we have a pie chart report available from the front page, and by clicking this would go straight then to the chart we just did in Excel, along with all the other settings and prints and so on, features that we have available. Now that we have created our first report, we will spend some time on creating a portfolio report, or at least an example of how an approach could be to create one. And the way to do it is pretty much what we've just learned by trimming OData, capturing the data we need. But when it has to do with end users, the UI and the experience of this is something that we have to take into consideration. And for that reason, I often tend to tell people that they should look at the existing PowerPoint templates being used already to create these monthly reports or portfolio reports. And in this case is an example of a very basic one, just having a front page with some current date and your name, looking at cost by project owner in this case, and something around count of projects by each stage if you are using a workflow. It could be a custom field as well. Could be various other pages that you would often see are being used to monitor the health of the portfolio. So I'm trying to give you an example now on how you would actually go around this. And first of all, let's launch our Excel spreadsheet again. This is where we left off with the pie chart. Just a second, here we go. And previously we trimmed it, so we actually removed a lot of data, data that we might need now to create the report that we have to do. So I would start off by simply going back and remove all the filtering we did, so we get all the data out of our Project Online tenant. So I'm going to go into our PK connection and go to definition, and simply at the bottom from the filter here, just remove all of it except for this one. Hit OK, close, and now it's just testing to see if the connection string is actually valid, which it is. And then we're gonna do a refresh now, just to make sure we have the latest data. So as you can see now, if I show the field list in the right side, I now have what we selected previously, but also all the other fields that could be useful for us to do a strong portfolio report. So first thing, as you can see in these PowerPoints quite often, there's always a front page. So this might be the place where we should actually start. So on the sheet 1, let's just remove that, because we're not going to use that anymore, and create a new one. And let's call it front page, so users will know later that this is the starting point. And this is simply like creating the visuals as we just have here. So you could actually trim the cells and the font. If you look at page layout in PowerPoint, it's worth mentioning that you can work with themes. So if you have your own custom theme already in your PowerPoint, you can actually import those themes directly to make sure all charts and all fonts are automatically adjusted to fit the corporate identity. So let's just take the Iron boardroom, which is a standard by Microsoft. Again, a simple way to create a front page could be just to let's say merge and censor this one, replace the color for instance to this, get some text. Notice the font has just changed to the theme we're using. Switch maybe to white font, and then write portfolio report like this, nothing else, just to make it very simple. Maybe do this a little bit bigger, like this. And then we might need something around the name. So let's do a merge and cell here, and merge and censor here. This could be author maybe, and today, date could be useful. Just set this to the left side here, like this, and the same here. Now let's start with that, and just as an example, just write Peter and something around, let's just take the 2036. This could also of course be adjusted automatically by using the regular Excel formulas. I'm just going to do it text style now, and then maybe do this bold, just something basic to make sure that this is actually a front page. Later we can then add some slicers here as well to make it more easy for end users to interact with data. I personally also like to go to the view setting and just remove all of these things. So from the end user perspective, you would only see this as the front page. Pretty much the same thing as we just saw here, just with some more colors. So that's the first thing we have to do. Now the next thing we have to do is to get the data that we need for us to create the first pie chart, which is the cost by project owner. So let's go back to our sheet 2, which now has the data connection. I would personally also rename this to be, let's say, page 1 data. So it's going to be easier to maintain the report afterwards once we're done. And in this case, we just have to remove a lot of these things. And we were looking at the owner name, so we have to find project owner, which should be around here. And if you think there's a lot of stuff here that is not alphabetically sorted out, remember you can always go up here and sort from A to Z. Now we also need to find the total cost, which I think is somewhere around here. So total cost. Notice that it's counting right now total cost. So actually those owners who are using some kind of cost or total cost custom field. So this is not what we want to look at. So let's go and change this value field to sum instead, so we actually get the dollars that are involved. Now, right now, since we are doing more or less of a PowerPoint mockup, we're actually not so much interested in the table here. So we're only interested in the chart, meaning this one, the pie chart. So the way to go around this is to create, let's say, a page 1 down here. Oh, sorry, here. Let's call this page 1 of our portfolio report. Let's just move it after the front page. And this is where we would need the pie chart to be in, so that users can go from front page to page 1 and so on, exactly as they're used to in the PowerPoint. So going back to our page 1 data, we now have to create the pie chart. So let's just select pie chart like this and select the first one. Again, notice it's using the template or the design template that we chose under page layout. So you don't have to care about that so much. We can then make it look, for instance, like this. We can remove the total if we don't feel like it. We can also remove these filters to make it look a little bit more simple by just using the field buttons again like this. And of course we have all the other standard ways of showing this particular chart in a way that suits the end users. Let's just take this one as an example. Then I would copy this and paste it directly to our page 1, such as this. And I would then hide this and remove again, just a second here, all the stuff we don't need, and might even also remove the border. Sorry, here, to make sure that the outline, that again, it's going to look as close as it can to actually being a PowerPoint. So now we have a front page and a page 1. So let's go back to our PowerPoint and see what else we have to do. And the next one we'll see here is the count of projects by stage. Now this is a bit more not tricky, but it's just another data source we have to use in order for us to create this. It's not in the other set of data that we had right here. So we need to create first of all a page 2. Start with that. Place that after page 1, of course. And we also have to create some supporting data for page 2. You could actually just reuse the page 1 data sets. I just prefer, in order for it again to be more easy to maintain, to actually create a page 2 data set. We can hide these obviously afterwards once we're done. Now let's try to get some data onto this page by creating a new connection. I will go to the original connection we have here, just to copy the path to our tenant, just using this all the way to project data. Copy, and on page 2 let's just insert the data from OData again, tenant name, And in this case, we're going to need the table that has to provide some data for our workflows. And that would be this one, project workflow stage dataset. It would also show us all the other relevant data that is available within this OData feed. Let's take a pivot table report. Now it's capturing the data and bringing it into my client. And as you can see, we now have phase name and project name and some other cool things. If we bring in project name, because going back to the PowerPoint, this is what we need to create an overview of the different phases or stages. I think this is actually phases in count of projects. Then we have to do a count, and a count could be just bringing in the project name as an entity into the values section. And before we do that, let's try to bring in the phase name, such as this, because there's a very important learning here when it has to do with doing charts on workflows. If we bring in project name now to the values section, it will automatically do a count, so that's perfect. The only problem right now is that this number up here, 297, isn't the actual number of projects in the portfolio. And the reason for that is that for each phase there are multiple stages, and tracking wise, all projects get a timestamp for when they were entering the phase, when they are in the stage, and when they're leaving the phases or the stages. So for that reason, we need to know only what is actually the active one currently. So to do that, you would go to stage status, bring it in as a filter, and then you have the current one or the active one, which is the number 1. 0 is just entering and 4 is when it's done. So 1 would be the active phase right now. So now the number is reduced to 27, which is a big difference compared to what we just saw. And to do a report on this right now, again, would just be to insert the chart, such as this one. And we might go in here and say this is the this is the projects by phase, for instance, the report. And we can remove the filter buttons, and then we can just copy this to our page 2 and paste it in here so it looks nice, just as the other one did, and remove the outline. And again, you could trim this so that you would have no formula bars, grid lines, or headings, such as this, to make it more look like the page 1 we had here. So if we go to the page 2 again, now what I tend to really like about Excel also and doing reports the way we're doing it right now is for the end users to get something more than they have been able to do in PowerPoint. And that could be bringing in some kind of slicer onto the front page, so you can actually select a particular project or a bunch of projects by some custom field. It could be the project departments, for instance. Now let's try to go to page 2 data, and here we need to insert a slicer that will show project departments, for instance. And if we insert a slicer by being within this data set using slicers, we will see that we have 2 data connections up here again, but the slicer can only be inserted from one of them. So if we want to use the project departments, we would have to be sure that project departments are actually available from the workflow stage dataset. And in this case, it is not. The data is stored underneath the projects data connection, where we actually have our project departments right here. So if we just add this right now and select different departments, nothing would really happen because it's not impacting at all the charts we are currently looking at. So the way to make this work would be to make sure there's a connection between the 2 data connections. And the most simple way, in my opinion, to do that is to go to the field list again and add some kind of value or data from, let's say, the projects data connection. It could be the project ID, which is the first one. Add this just to the filter area. This would then have Excel prompt us for a relationship that needs to be created. And we can then hit create and say that in this table up here, we're going to take workflow stage dataset and use the project name. And in the projects table, we're going to use the project name as well. So then there's a relationship, at least on the project name level. So hitting OK right now would have the prompt go away. You might not see it right now, but if we then insert a slicer again and select the project department here, hit OK. Now you just saw that the project departments which were stored in the original page 1 data connection is now impacting also the page 2 data connection, as the example shows right here. So this is perfect for us right now. But in order for this one now to be working also on the page 1 chart, this one, we have to manually click on this one, go to report connections within the slicer, and say that it has to impact page 1 data as well, meaning the pivot table. So now if we select IT or IT plus legal, you would then see that both page 1 is now updated and page 2 by just using one slicer. And that is a very cool trick that we often use. This slicer we can then copy and paste to the front page, like here. We can trim it a little bit, for instance by just, sorry, I have to go to this one, by having multiple columns, so we are using the screen a little bit more smart. We could also right click and say slicer setting and hide items that has no data because it's not relevant currently, and we can change the header to select department and hit OK. So just this. So now on the front page, users can go directly and say, before they load any kind of charts, I only want to look at IT and legal, and then the following charts would be updated according to those choices, or just going back to all of them and again having impacted both charts. So let's hide the data, such as this, and save the spreadsheet and upload this to our tenant, which I'm gonna do very briefly. Just a second, I have to log on again. Here we go. We have it right here. Just have to log in. It's gonna be like this, logging into the tenant. And let's upload this to our reporting library. So this chart is called only chart 2. We might give it actually another name so it makes more sense. It could be our portfolio report. Save that on the desktop. And we also need to remember that this sheet has to again show all the data. So that has already been selected previously, but make sure that you have the entire workbook available for the users again. So closing Excel, and now we just need to drag the portfolio report that we have stored here to our report library. And same as we saw previously, let's try to create a link by going to View Properties and copy the path shortcut, and let's go back again to our front page. Just have to say yes to the trust, such as this, and bring this portfolio report to the report section just as we did it previously. So adding a new link, adding the link here, and writing, let's say, portfolio report underneath reports. OK, and save and close. So now we have a pie chart report and the portfolio report. So if we load the portfolio report, it will launch directly from where we left it, meaning on the first page. So that's why it now looks as if you have almost the PowerPoint. So you have a front page, page 1, and page 2. And again, from the front page, we can then select, let's say, only the finance, and see the impact all of a sudden on page 1 and page 2. And as you can imagine, you can build a lot of other pages showing all the data that is available from the different data sources. But again, to use the slicers, those could impact all the different data connections very easily. So that pretty much summarizes how we could build up a portfolio report from scratch and make sure that this would then perhaps even replace the current use of PowerPoint. So let's go to our PowerPoint and see if we can replace the charts. Notice that in PowerPoint we had only 2 pages with 2 charts, and those were the ones we just replaced using Excel services. But in order for the PowerPoint, the actual PowerPoint, to actually be updated as well, we have to create a chart link from PowerPoint and directly to the Excel charts. The fastest way to do this would be to open up Excel and take the workbook directly from Excel services. Say edit in Excel. This would then open up and launch Excel the client in just a second. And this sheet is opened directly from our Project Web app, so that means it has the correct path directly to where the actual spreadsheet is stored. So now we have the report opened. We can just hit edit, that's okay. And on page 1 is where the first chart is actually available. So if we click on this one and hit copy, Control C, and go to PowerPoint and remove this one and simply replace it with the new one. Again, notice that it's actually, sorry, let's go back a little bit here. It's prompting for some options when we do the pasting. As by design, it's already linked to the data source, but it's matching the destination theme, meaning the theme that has been selected in our PowerPoint, whereas we would like it to follow the style which is created in Excel. So going a little bit to the right would update it, so it's always one-to-one with what is available in Excel from a UI and design perspective. So this is the first chart being replaced. Going into the second one, page 2, we select this, we Control C, copy, and we go back to our counts of projects and remove the old one, replace it with the new one. Make sure to use the correct design, make it bigger or larger, doesn't really matter. Now the trick here is to go to the file or the backstage area of Excel, PowerPoint, and notice the edit links to files functionality. If you click on this one, you will see that the 2 chart elements have each of their own links, whereas they are also connected directly to our tenant name PK. So that's the whole path we need to use. We can either choose to have a manual update of each chart, or meaning that we have to click the update now button every time it should be refreshed, or we can have an automatic update, which many people prefer. So let's select this one and do the same for the second one. Now if we hit close and save the the PowerPoint on our desktop again, we can actually close it now. And before we do that, notice for instance that the charts look like this, and cost per owner looks like this. So if we leave it here, and we then go back to our spreadsheet, if something changes in the spreadsheet, and that could be something as if the filter changed, but it could also be just new data has been added or new projects. But let's simulate it by just selecting sales and marketing. Now you'll see that we have only 3 owners available in the chart and only 3 faces available in this chart. If we then close the spreadsheet and go directly to our PowerPoint that we did, which is this one, portfolio report, and open it up, it will ask us now to update the links if we want to do it or not. And of course we're going to do this. And now you'll see that both charts has been updated, so it works pretty much within the second after the Excel spreadsheet has been changed in some ways. So just to make another example, a fast one, we go back again to the spreadsheet here, or if we had to go in through the Project Online tenant, that would be the same thing. And we change to just select some more departments, meaning some more owners will show up. So as a final test, we go into the portfolio report, open it up, update links, and charts are now updated accordingly. What is very useful to know is that obviously PowerPoint has to have access directly to, from a user rights perspective, the specific Excel spreadsheet up here. And the most simple way for you to make sure you have access is to be in some ways connected to the Project Online tenant when you do it. So that means you just have to be within the area of Project Online tenant up here, go to the front page or somewhere like that, and simply run the portfolio report in PowerPoint. So this closes the session on how to actually link your PowerPoint data directly to your Excel spreadsheets and charts without using any kind of code.